Greetings and welcome to this Google Hangout that features our response to the Rosicrucian call for more spirituality, humanism, and ecology or environmental stewardship in the world. 400 years ago, in 1614, some courageous mystics in Tübingen, Germany, published an anonymous manifesto called the Appellatio Fraternitatis. This was the first of the Rosicrucian Manifestos that was published. And in January 2014, the fifth Rosicrucian Manifesto was published. So in our Hangout, we're going to look at a little bit of the history of the Rosicrucian Manifestos. But specifically, our purpose today is to answer the call or the appeal of the most recent Rosicrucian Manifesto, the Appellatio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis. And this will include a meditation where we focus on how we can contribute to more spirituality, humanism, and environmental stewardship in the world. So as I said, the first Rosicrucian Manifesto was published in 1614. And the group that published this, they were known as the Tübingen Circle. They're a group of scholars and students at Tübingen University, which was one of the primary academic centers in Europe at that time. And Europe was in an incredible turmoil and crisis around that time. The Inquisition was in full swing. People were being burned at the stake. In France, they had just completed a 100-year war. It was the war of religion where for 100 years, Protestant and Catholic Christians were massacring each other. There had been a drought and a famine, and the situation in Europe was really horrible at that time. And so this group of scholars and students at Tübingen University, they published this first Rosicrucian Manifesto. And they published it anonymously. And it was a call to the leaders and the scholars of Europe at that time. So they were calling on the leaders of Europe to transform this very troubled society beyond its religious intolerance and superstition into one that could be sustained for a long time with a healthy future for people. That was in 1614. Then in 1615, the next Rosicrucian Manifesto was published. And this one too was published it was published anonymously by the Tübingen Circle. And then the next year, in 1616, the third Rosicrucian Manifesto was published. And this is the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz. All of these manifestos were written as allegories. So you need to understand that what's presented in these manifestos is symbolic of the message. For example, there's the story of a character named Christian Rosenkreuz who travels around the world, and it's telling the story of where the Rosicrucian tradition came from, the sources of the Rosicrucian tradition. So when he's visiting a particular area, it's in order to show what tradition became part of the Rosicrucian tradition. And the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz was not actually about a wedding at all. It was the story of a funeral and how we die to the life that we have so that we can be reborn and transformed and have a closer connection with the divine. So again, the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz was published in 1616. And then in 2001, the fourth Rosicrucian Manifesto was published, and this is the Appellatio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis. Now, this manifesto is a position statement of how Rosicrucians saw the world at that time. And we presented many of the challenges related to the environment and materialism and the excessive consumerism. And we stated that although the situation is worrying and troublesome, it's not hopeless. So it was a call for everyone really to focus on what our society could be. And at that time, the imperator had asked that all the Grand Lodges wait until the first part of September in 2001 to send this, so that members would receive it right after our World Convention in 2001 that was in Göteborg, Sweden. So our Grand Lodge in North America, we had planned to mail it a little bit, I think it was September 7th, something like that. And then the events occurred on September 11th, 2001. And you may recall that the US postal system was shut down for about a week because there was a big anthrax concern at that time. So no one was getting their mail. And then when the mail resumed, the first delivery of mail included to members this position statement about how troublesome and worrying the world is at that time, but we need to come together in order to create a really healthy, sustainable future for ourselves and for the planet. And then in January of 2014, the 5th Rosicrucian Manifesto was published. Part of the purpose of publishing it at this time was to celebrate the 400th anniversary of that first Rosicrucian Manifesto, the Fama Fraternitatis. And it's also time for a call, for an appeal. The word appellatio means an appeal or a call, and this is a call to you. It's a call to all Rosicrucians. It's a call to all mystics, to everyone who sees the conditions in the world today and will commit to doing something about it. So anyone who's interested in spirituality or mysticism, or who is a Rosicrucian, is aware of the challenges that we face as a species, the challenges that we're creating for our beautiful planet. So this is a call. And I'm asking you right now to respond to this call, to become engaged in bringing forth more spirituality in the world, bringing forth more humanism, and becoming a steward of the environment. Now, I'd like to share a few short excerpts from the Appellatio. It's available online. We've recorded the entire thing, so there's an audio recording. There's also a copy. If you want a hard copy, we'd be glad to send you one, and it's available online. And I'm going to read just a few excerpts from these 3 areas of the appeal. Again, it's the appeal for more spirituality in the world, more humanism, and for more ecology or protecting the environment. So we'll start with the appeal for spirituality. What is spirituality? In accordance with what we have said previously, it transcends religiosity. In other words, it is not limited to believing in a God and following a religious credo, no matter how respectable this may be. Instead, it consists of seeking the deeper meaning of existence and gradually awakening the best within ourselves. Then it continues. The real question we can and should ask ourselves on the subject of God or the divine is not, therefore, whether the divine exists or not, but in what manner does the divine intervene in the lives of human beings. In our view, the divine does so to the extent to which we respect the laws through which it appears in the universe, in nature and humanity itself. This means studying those laws, which Rosicrucians have always dedicated themselves to doing. You will note that this approach to God, or the divine, and the role that God plays in our existence has a scientific connotation rather than a religious one. Then it concludes with, we hope that a time will come when spirituality as a quest for knowledge and wisdom will become normal practice and will condition civic life from then on. Politics will become as one with philosophy, and therefore be inspired by the love of wisdom, as it was at the height of the Greek civilization. Let us recall that this was the cradle of democracy and was at the origin of the notion of the republic, among others. Let us also recall that the majority of its philosophers were spiritual people. So now we're going to answer the call for spirituality. And I invite each of you to think of an image to symbolize how you will respond to the call for more spirituality in the world. An image that comes to mind for me, related to the excerpts that I just shared, is of the Pythagoreans and Pythagoras. These were mystics who were scientists who studied the world around them in order to feel a closer connection with the divine. They did this 2,500 years ago, and it can really be considered as the beginning of the scientific inquiry that continues today in the West. So they would look at relationships around them. They would study how numbers and the planets may have a relationship, how music and numbers may have a relationship. They examined everything around them so that they could feel a closer connection with the divine. In fact, Pythagoras was the first person to use the term cosmos to describe the harmonious whole. The word cosmos literally means something beautiful to look at. This was the type of spirituality that the Pythagoreans took with them in every action throughout their day. So choose whatever is the best symbol for you to now see yourself engaged in creating a world with more spirituality in it, with an emphasis on the spiritual rather than the material. See yourself engaged in this. And now you may want to close your eyes, and with the vowel sound Om, O-M, intone this to yourself 3 times, using the power of the vibration of sound to project this image, this symbol in your mind, into manifestation in the world. So I'll pause for a moment while you take the time to send your answer, your response to the appeal for more spirituality in the world. We'll continue now with the next area for appeal in the Appellatio, and this is the appeal for humanism. And again, I'll share just a few brief excerpts from this appeal. Article 10 of the Rosicrucian Declaration of Human Duties, published by AMWORC in September 2005, says, "It is each individual's duty to consider the whole of humanity as his or her family, and to behave in all circumstances and everywhere as a citizen of the world. This means making humanism the basis of his or her behavior and philosophy." Then it continues, "But what does being a humanist mean? In the first place, it involves considering all human beings to be blood brothers and sisters, and the differences between them to be purely superficial. This appeal concludes with, throughout history, humans have demonstrated the capacity to accomplish extraordinary things when they call upon the most noble and ingenious sides of human nature. Whether it be in the fields of architecture, technology, literature, the sciences, the arts, or in relations between the citizens of a single country, they have demonstrated intelligence, creativity, sensitivity, solidarity, and fraternity. This observation is comforting in itself because it confirms that human beings are inclined to do good and work toward the happiness of all. It is for this reason precisely that one must be a humanist and have faith in oneself. So now we're going to respond to this appeal, the appeal for humanism in the world. And again, I invite you to join me in this meditation that we'll do together. If you could share in this same visualization. We're all connected now through this hangout. We're connected in a way that is very interesting. I feel your presence, and I ask you now, wherever you are, to reach out your hands and feel them grasping the hands of someone else who is viewing this Google Hangout now. Each hand, you feel the hand of someone else. You feel this connection. And now on top of your hands that are connected, and you can do this with your eyes closed or your eyes open, whichever you prefer, you feel another hand on top of yours. And this is the hand of another mystic or another Rosicrucian who you know now or maybe have known in the past. Maybe it's the person who introduced you to the Rosicrucian order or first shared mystical or spiritual concepts with you. You feel this connection. You feel their hand on yours. And now you feel another hand on top of all your hands together. And you realize that it's a small, dark-skinned hand. And it's a little girl in Nigeria. And her hand is on top of yours. And you feel connected to her. And now you feel another hand. And this is the hand of a mature man in Syria, who we're all connected with now. And now you feel another hand join ours. And it's the hand of someone in your community who may not always have a place to live, who may not always have enough to eat. And you feel her hand join ours. And now you feel another hand, and this again is a very small hand. And this hand is of a child of the future. This is the hand of a child that we're doing our mystical work for, so that this child has a beautiful, sustainable world in which to live, where people take care of each other, where people reach out to each other. With all of our hands connected, with this visualization clearly in your mind, use the power of sound to project this into actuality, into manifestation in our world by intoning the vowel sound Om 3 times. Now, before releasing the hands of the others, if you would just gently, gently squeeze the hand in recognition of the mystical work that we've done together and in our responding to the appeal for more humanism in the world. Release the hands. Now we're going to go to the third appeal in the Appellatio, which is the appeal for ecology or environmental stewardship. And again, I'll read a few short excerpts. In our view, you cannot be a humanist without being an ecologist or someone who takes care of the environment. How indeed can you want all human beings to be happy without concerning yourself with the conservation of the planet on which they live? Yet each of us knows that it is in danger, and that humanity is largely responsible for this. Various types of pollution, the destruction of ecosystems, excessive deforestation, and the massacre of animal species, etc. Then later it states, Rosicrucians are not sweet dreamers with the spiritual side of existence as their sole preoccupation. We are indeed mystics in the etymological sense of the term, which means men and women who are interested in the study of the mysteries of life. But we know that it is here on earth that we must establish the paradise that religions situate in the afterlife. To do so, humans must learn to wisely manage natural resources and the products they create, which is why it is necessary to ensure that all levels and aspects of the economy benefit all people and all their citizens equitably, out of respect for human dignity and for nature. Later it states, for us, Earth is not only the planet on which human beings live, it is also the backdrop of their spiritual evolution and allows each one of them to be fulfilled as living souls. It has therefore both a terrestrial and a celestial vocation, which is what the wisest of thinkers and philosophers have taught through the ages, the world over. Until humanity recognizes this truth and acts accordingly, the materialism and individualism that currently prevail will gradually worsen, with all the consequential negative outcomes for itself and for nature. More than ever, there is an urgent need to reinstate the ternary humanity, nature, divine. That is the basis of all esoteric traditions and that civilization itself should adopt. Then it says, as we all know, Earth is also home to a multitude of animals, some wild and others domesticated. They too possess a soul. This appeal concludes with, there are no gaps or boundaries between nature's kingdoms, for they are animated by the same vital force and are part of the same cosmic evolutionary process observed on our planet. So now we're going to respond to the appeal for stewardship of our environment or ecology with another meditation. And I invite you to close your eyes and literally move your hands in front of you as though you are tenderly holding a tiny baby bird or a little bunny rabbit. Your hands are in front of you, your eyes are closed, and you feel the weight of this little being in your hands. You send it loving thoughts. And now you place the baby bird or the bunny down. And in the same way, you hold earth in your hands. Tenderly, gently, lovingly, holding earth in your hands. And you see yourself as an earth keeper. Perhaps you are clothed in the clothes of the earth goddess, or a knight of the earth keepers, or as a business person in a suit who is answering the call for more environmental stewardship in that way. But with the image, feeling earth in your hands, gently enfolding and protecting earth in your hands, we will again send this visualization into the world by intoning the vowel sound Om 3 times, knowing that the power of the vibrations of sound are sending this visualization into the world for manifestation. So please intone Om 3 times. Now, the conclusion of the Appellatio states that of the 3 appeals, spirituality, humanism, and ecology, or stewardship of the environment, the most important is ecology. The most important is to take immediate steps in our personal lives in order to protect this beautiful planet, in order to be earth keepers. Then the second most important appeal to respond to is humanism, so that we can help our brothers and sisters stay on their feet, get on their feet and stay on their feet, that we can help each other, that we can have a worldwide community, a fraternity, of people who care for each other. And this then leads us to a more spiritual world. So now I'd like to read the final paragraph of the Appellatio from the conclusion. To conclude, and in light of all the above, it is more than ever our hope that humanity will take a spiritual, humanistic, and ecological direction so that it may be born again and make way for a new humanity, regenerated on every plane. The Rosicrucians of the 17th century were already calling for such regeneration in the Fama Fraternitatis. Rejected by the religious, political, and economic conservatives of the time, this appeal was only acknowledged by free thinkers. In view of the current situation in the world, We felt it was useful and necessary to openly renew this appeal in the hope that this time it would receive a favorable response. So mote it be. Thank you all very much for joining this Google Hangout and for responding to this appeal for more environmental stewardship, or ecology, more humanism, and more spirituality in the world. What you do is important. The mission of the Rosicrucian order is to perpetuate the Rosicrucian tradition and to contribute to the evolution of consciousness. This is what your response to the Appellatio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis is doing. You are manifesting in the world more spirituality, humanism, and environmental stewardship. May our work benefit more than just us individually. It will benefit more than the Rosicrucian order. May our work collectively be of the greatest benefit to all beings and our planet. So mote it be. Thank you so much, and until the next time, peace profound.